The slow drift. How often do we hear stories of people getting saved, being on fire for the Lord, and then within a few weeks it's all but fizzled out? That happened to me. I remember the moment I truly heard the gospel for the first time and made the decision to submit my life to Him. I went through the waters of baptism and felt like I could storm the gates of hell with a super soaker and a crucifix. My, how naive I was. Then slowly the fire subsided. I found that simply sitting on a pew and hearing a message every so often had become the extent of my spiritual engagement. Looking back, I can clearly see what was happening. I was drifting, and that drift continued for almost 2 decades. Speaking of drift, I'm reminded of growing up and traveling to the North Carolina coast for family vacations. My brother and I loved playing in the ocean, and nothing was more fun to a 12-year-old kid than grabbing a boogie board and riding the waves. When we first started doing this, our parents watched us like hawks and constantly reminded us to stay lined up with their chairs on the beach. What we didn't understand at the time was how easy it was to drift without even realizing it. When you're in the ocean enjoying the waves and the excitement around you, the current is quietly pushing and pulling the entire time. It's relentless, even though you barely notice it. I distinctly remember several times when my brother and I got so wrapped up in the fun that we suddenly couldn't find our parents anymore. The drift had been happening for quite some time, but because we were focused on what was directly in front of us, we completely missed how far off course we had gone. Eventually we would realize what had happened. We'd figure out which direction the current had taken us and then march back down the beach dragging our boards until we found our parents again. Looking back now, I can't remember a single time when my mom hadn't been watching us the entire time. Even when we thought we were out of sight, her eyes had never left us. That picture has stuck with me over the years. I spent nearly 2 decades drifting spiritually while chasing the waves of this world, and yet there was never a moment when I was outside the view of my Creator. For me, that drift happened the same way it happens for many men. Life got busy. Between building a career, getting married, raising kids, and trying to manage responsibilities, my spiritual walk quietly moved further and further down the priority list. It wasn't rebellion, it was neglect. Then after walking through some difficult seasons, God got my attention. When I finally looked up after riding the waves of life for so long, I couldn't believe how far I had drifted. Core habits like time in prayer and reading His Word had almost completely disappeared. The relationship that once felt vibrant had slowly been replaced by occasional church attendance and surface-level faith. Thankfully, just like I always knew which direction to walk to find my mom on the beach, I knew exactly where to turn when the reality of my drift hit me between the eyes. Right back to the foot of the cross. I can tell you this with absolute certainty: when we recognize the drift and genuinely repent, we do not encounter a distant or disappointed God. What I found instead was a loving Father ready to welcome His Son home. The difficult part is that riding the waves of life can be exciting. It can be fun. It can even feel productive. And because of that, many men never stop long enough to look up. They continue chasing the next thing they believe will finally satisfy them. A promotion leads to wondering what the next promotion will be. A new vehicle eventually leads to thinking about upgrading it. A certain number in the bank account somehow never feels like enough. The pursuit of more quietly becomes the current that carries us further away. And the truth is, nothing on this side of heaven will ever fully satisfy what our souls are searching for. When we pursue fulfillment apart from Christ, the drift only continues. That's why drift rarely feels dramatic. It usually happens slowly, quietly, and over time. If you feel like you've been faking it spiritually, this is a good time to pause and take an honest look around. Lift your eyes and see where you are. Not so you can condemn yourself, but so you can course correct. Because you can't change direction until you first acknowledge where the current has taken you. And the good news is this: the same God who never took His eyes off you during the drift is the one ready to walk with you as you return. The moment you turn back toward Him, the real journey can begin. Reflection questions. Where might you be drifting spiritually without even realizing it? What distractions have slowly pulled your attention away from God?